DLC for Pokemon Legends ZA was just announced. The mythical Pokemon Hoopa is opening dimensional portals and unleashing new Mega Evolutions. And while everyone's talking about how critical the implications of this DLC could be on the lore of the Pokemon universe, I want to talk about what we could actually see. In this video, I'm going to break down and predict every single thing we could realistically see in this new DLC for Legends ZA. What's going on, everyone? It's Dusty Go-Goat. Welcome back to my headcanon. First up is obviously new Mega Evolutions as well as legendary forms, but I want to think about this a little bit differently. The name of this DLC is Mega Dimension, and to me that suggests the Megas that we're going to see won't be your typical Mega Evolutions. Much like Paradox Pokemon, I believe each new Mega Evolution will represent the unique dimension that they originate from. Think about it like this. Almost every single Mega Evolution is a singular form, but there are a couple outliers. Charizard, Mewtwo, and now Raichu have two separate Mega Evolution forms, all of which are defined by either an X or a Y. What this makes me think about is that these Mega Evolution letters could correspond to specific dimensional timelines and worlds. Charizard, Mewtwo, and now Raichu all have X and Y variants, but through this new DLC story, is this how we could finally see Mega Charizard Z? Does the Z to A within the game title not just reference the battle competition, but it also references a multitude of different dimensions that we're able to see glimpses of through Hoopa's rings? Maybe not, but it never made sense to me that certain Pokemon got two different Mega Evolution forms and others didn't. But it's really exciting for me to think about Hyperspace Lumiose and alternate parallel dimensions of the Pokemon world that we know, and how this could theoretically imply an unlimited amount of new Mega Evolutions that we could see in the future. Maybe Mega Flygon doesn't exist in the Generation 6 timeline, but in another dimension, we do see a Mega Flygon Z, a Mega Flygon M. The letters at this point are kind of irrelevant, but I think all 26 letters of the alphabet help me imagine a spectrum of different dimensions that all hold unique and specific Mega Pokemon. Hyperspace Distortions could canonize the idea that Mega Evolutions exist across multiple dimensions, future-proofing the mechanic as we go into Generation 10 and beyond. In the Mega Dimension reveal trailer, we did see brand new Mega Evolution Stones, and most of them seem like they do not already correspond with an existing Mega. There's a lot of colors featured in these stones that imply that we will receive new Mega Evolutions. I think a lot of Kalos Pokemon deserve some attention. Some really strong candidates would include Goodra, Noivern, Talonflame, Aegislash, Sylveon perhaps. Clawitzer is something that I'd love to see. I'm sure some additional Kanto Pokemon will get some love. My picks are Nidoking and Nidoqueen. Those are some Kanto staples that absolutely deserve Mega Evolutions. I think personally, I'd love to see the Paldean starters receive new evolutions. Honestly, anything from the Paldean region would be really cool. I think about Pokemon like Scovillain. It's a great design on its own, but it feels a little bit underbaked. I think Scovillain would go so hard if it received the Mega Evolution. It kind of feels perfect for a Mega Evolution. Like, what would it become? It would probably become this like multi-headed pepper dragon hydra. Everyone wants Flygon. I think Gigalith would be pretty fun as well. But even the legendary Pokemon of the Kalos region deserve some new Mega Evolutions, or at least some new alternative forms. In Legends Arceus, we see Pokemon like Palkia and Dialga getting new origin forms and new members being added to existing legendary trios. This DLC is an opportunity for the seemingly forgotten Kalos legendary and mythical Pokemon to be given new life. I want to see Pokemon like Xerneas, Yveltal, Deontay, Volcanion, and even Hoopa itself receive new Mega Evolutions, or maybe even primal forms. The legendary Kanto, birds, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres roam around the Kalos region, so I think those could also receive new Mega Evolutions. And I think there are also a lot of non-Kalos mythical Pokemon that have ties to this French-inspired region and could be integrated into the lore. Pokemon like Victini, Keldeo, the Swords of Justice, Magearna, and even Necrozma all have ties to the legendary Pokemon of Kalos. We have to remember that this is a Pokemon Legends title, so I'm expecting these mythical and legendary Pokemon to be featured a lot more heavily in this DLC. I think it's very easy to assume that in this DLC, we will be getting access to really any number of different Mega Evolutions through Hoopa's portals. But I got a text message from my friend Jake Steinberg. He makes this observation that the DLC is adding megas for Raichu, but you can already get a Raichu in base Legends EA. And I think this is a really great observation because the framing of this DLC could be similar to how we're introduced to the Paradox Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet, where the Paradox Pokemon are so much more striking because we have a familiarity with the original Pokemon that they're based on. We know that this DLC takes place in hyperspace Lumiose. This is an alternate reality of Lumiose City. So the whole game, even the DLC, still takes place within this singular Kalos City, but it's an alternate dimension. Just like the Paradox Pokemon, I think it would be really striking if, as we're exploring the region, Hoopa opens up these portals and spits out Pokemon that to us feel so foreign. We know Raichu, but we've never seen Raichu in this new mega form. Isn't that so much more impactful? So all of a sudden, this gives us a much more narrow and specific pool of Pokemon that might get mega evolutions. Pokemon that are in Legends EA that could now receive a mega evolution in this DLC. I'm looking at Arbok, Machamp, the Evolutions, Ariados, Roserade, Hippowdon, Watchog, the Elemental Monkey, Garbodor, Emolga, Gogoat, Pancham, Furfrou, Meowstic. There's a bunch of Kalos Pokemon. And to be honest, that's the entire list of Pokemon that do not have Mega Evolutions. Every single other Pokemon featured in Legends EA up to this point already have Mega Evolutions. And just receiving new Mega Evolutions through these Hoopa portals would be sufficient, but I think it would also be very cool to be able to step into these portals and enter an alternate dimension, to enter into hyperspace Lumiose. And thinking again about this connection between Mega Evolutions and the Paradox Pokemon, there already is a lot of connective tissue. You have Paradox Pokemon like Iron Valiant and Roaring Moon being direct references to those Pokemon's Mega Evolutions. Gardevoir and Salamence and Gallade all have Mega Evolutions. Could we then see new Mega Evolutions that take design inspiration from existing Paradox Pokemon? It's pretty fun to think about. All right, next I've got some thoughts on the actual playable locations within this game. In the most recent Japanese trailer for Legends EA, we see what looks to be an opening cutscene for the main story. Our player character is on a train looking out towards Lumiose Tower in the city, but they are located outside of the city. It's kind of a meme at this point, but I do wonder if maybe in post-game we are able to access some of the routes and environments located on the outskirts of Lumiose City, beyond city walls. But what if we could step into the portal? If we stepped through one of these portals, we would then simply be in hyperspace Lumiose, an alternate reality. And this could contrast, right, with the story. This could contrast with what we're presented. Maybe it conflicts with one of the philosophies or fears, one of the antagonists of the story. And for a gameplay experience, I think this would be kind of easy to implement. We're able to step into one of these portals, and now Lumiose City, everything is just a little bit different. It's the same map, but warped. New encounters, new trainers. There could be difficulty scaling in this new Lumiose City map. Maybe hyperspace Lumiose shows us a reality more closely similar to what we know from Pokemon X and Y. Familiar Kalos characters like the gym leaders, the Elite Four, maybe our rivals, Professor Sycamore, are all roaming about. It's kind of cool to think about how, like in Legends Arceus, we're introduced to new ancestor characters that parallel and honestly look just like existing legacy characters from across the Pokemon world. Maybe in Legends ZA, the characters that we know about, Mabel, Emma, AZ, are actually completely separate from the characters that we learn about in Pokemon X and Y. They're literally, fundamentally different characters. AZ potentially never set off the Great Weapon. Hoopa's Dex entry mentions that legends state how it once carried off an entire castle to gain the treasure hidden within. Maybe this DLC is us witnessing this exact legend. We're traveling through this alternative Lumiose City and we stumble upon the Parfum Palace. We could see the moon dial randomly displaced in Lumiose City. I think it'd also be really cool to see maybe the Kalos League, and this would function as a post-game playable experience. Again, in this real-time combat, we can now battle the Kalos League and maybe even some of the gym leaders in this experimental real-time battle system. And so whatever wormhole that we step through, maybe an alternate dimension of Lumiose City could actually feature familiar displaced Kalos landmarks. Now, I want to talk about the broader implications for Pokemon lore. We've talked about a lot of this already. The first place that my mind went to were all of the alternate forms that were introduced in Scarlet and Violet, which is another Generation 9 game. I'm thinking about the Paradox Pokemon. These are alternate reality forms, very similar to what we're seeing with these new Mega Evolutions, where they only exist in other dimensions. I also think about the Blood Moon Ursaluna. This, to me, is a Pokemon form unlike any other, but it does a lot of functional and technical similarities to Diancie and the Eternal Flower Floette, both from the Kalos region. Blood Moon Ursaluna and Diancie come into existence as mutations from another Pokemon. Blood Moon Ursaluna obviously is a form of Ursaluna, but you cannot evolve an Ursaring into an Ursaluna, and Diancie was born from a single Carbink, which again, you cannot evolve a Carbink into a Diancie. And similarly, the Eternal Flower Floette, which we see all throughout the story of Legends EA, is functionally a legendary form of a random Pokemon, Floette, and its evolutionary status is completely separate and disjointed from the Flabébé line. This special Floette also has a massive increase in its base stat total. I think there's a lot of connections here that we could see more about in this DLC. It's seriously so cool that we are going to be receiving even more Mega Evolutions in this DLC. And although these Hoopa rings don't really function the same way or access same parts of the universe as an Ultra Wormhole, I do think we could see Ultra Beasts. Like I said, Necrozma has a long-standing rivalry in history with Zygarde. I think we really might be surprised what comes out of these mega dimensions. These are all my thoughts right now. Subscribe for more speculation videos. Consider joining me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member to support this channel. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments what you think I got wrong.